I don't think I could make changes. I just think it would be nice for people not to have to live with the fear that someone is judging you by the color of your skin. Those sort of things are things that minority people have to live with all the time. All my life, they've been killing black men. In my life, they killed one black man who still, when I say his name, I get chills. His name was Emmett Till.
Well, you should check on him. He's not responsive right now.
Back off!
He's not responsive.
Get off the street before you get arrested. Okay, then you know.
He's
Get off
not
the street.
responsive right now. He's not responsive right now, bro.
Does he have a pulse?
No, bro, look at him. He's not responsive right now, bro.
He's not on him. 3 minutes. Fuck off him. What are you doing?
Bro, 3 minutes, bro. He's not fucking moving.
He's dying. On him. Bro, see that he's not.
Bro, he's not even fucking moving. Get off of his fucking neck, bro.
Like,
Get off
for
of his
real,
neck.
still on him, bro.
On May 25th, 2020, an unarmed black man was killed by a white police officer as American citizens watched, filmed, and pleaded for mercy. George Floyd's murder sparked outrage, action, and dialogue throughout America and the globe.
And it's crazy because it's not going to happen overnight. We know that. It's not going to happen next week. We know that. But we're going to keep fighting!
Even in a city as tranquil as Fremont, California, residents united at City Hall to protest George Floyd's death.
What's his name? What's his name? George Floyd. I say George. You say Floyd. George Floyd.
Ohlone College serves the Fremont and Newark community. It's a diverse community with people of various cultures and ethnicities. The murder of George Floyd sparked a call to action to create a safe space for the discussion of racism on campus, and Ohlane's vision going forward. While many on the Ohlone campus were reluctant to share their views, some were willing to speak.
After George Floyd was murdered, our Vice President of Human Resources and Training reached out to me, and she said, we have to do something. We have to create a space where people can process what happened. People were angry. They were confused. They wanted to know how they could be an ally. What could they do to help? Creating this space where people could come together and really process what happened was shocking. People were open, they were transparent, they were vulnerable. So our virtual peaceful protest platform became our ground of where we could protest what was going on. So we created 8 sessions that were facilitated by faculty, staff, and administrators, where we continued to give people a space where they could talk about what was going on and what was happening. And as a result, we discovered that it was through, and it is through, courageous conversations that's going to lead us to healing. It's through courageous conversations that's going to lead us to a place where we can identify our biases and learn how to manage them. Because the reality is this, we all have them.
This country was birthed out of racism. And it didn't just start last year, it didn't start in the 1800s. It started when this country started. And until that is addressed and really put out and people's feelings are hurt and the tears flow and the issues are laid out there and are worked through and talked through, this country is going to continue to be a racist country.
Well, of course, back in the day, we didn't have all the rules and regulations and conceptions, all those things. So it was a different environment back then. But yeah, I've seen my fair share of things happening on campus. Yeah, I think it's going to be a while before we actually start to come out the other end and see a lot more kindness and collaboration and care.
The experience in the beginning was hard for me because it was a community college, but it was a community college in Fremont. There weren't many black people here. I'd come to school 2 days a week just looking to see if I could see someone who looked like me. And the first time I saw a guy who looked like me, I stopped and got out of the car and went over and talked to him. And he was one of the gardeners here, and he was working outside. And I said, "Hi, I'm Bill Moore, and I work here." And I was very, very happy to see him.
There were times where things that were said that were very, very hurtful. To know that those were, that those individuals were hurt. Things were said in meetings. Training is definitely one of the solution, but I also think that there has to be a space for people to feel safe, to say, you know what, I want to be part of healing.
So I believe that some people have the idea that racism is some white people who, for some mysterious reason, have these strange hostile beliefs towards people of color. But I think of racism and many of the other isms like sexism and classism as sort of integral parts of our culture, that we are using systems of belief in our society that assume that white people's experience is more important than people's of color experience, and that white people's ideas and structures are the ones that should be followed. I really think it's important that we understand that racism is not some strange thing a few nasty people practice, but instead it's a system of beliefs that we all learned and that we all constantly need to question.
It was hard for me to understand that I had privilege. I've developed into that by relearning, by talking with people, by trying to educate myself. But it exists, the social benefits that white people have received that other people have not received.
One of our instructors shared that she was in a meeting and she was expressing her views about something, and someone disagreed, another faculty person disagreed, and told her to shut up. That's not okay for anyone. But what was disheartening is that no one covered her. No one spoke up for her.
I feel like I've been discriminated because of my gender, my skin color, and lately age. I've been on numerous committees where I would raise my hand to answer a question, and I would be looked over or cut off or just dismissed totally in what I was saying. I've even been in meetings where people would turn to another person and ask them, does she really know what she's talking about? Where'd she get that from? Can you validate what she's saying? I've been told to shut up and be quiet, that I didn't have a voice, and nobody stood up for me. When I was hired, there were 2 black women hired that time. There was not another black woman hired in faculty for almost 15 years. It made me realize that when I looked around, I saw 2 black counselors at that time, and I saw no other black people. And I'm like, okay, what's up with Ohlone College?
The School of Ohlone, in my opinion, needs to educate their teachers. They need to get more people of color in here. They need to get more diversity. They need to get more black people. That way, I don't have to sit there in a classroom where a whole bunch of people, I'm the only black person in the classroom, and all the people are looking at me like, oh, do black people just like eating chicken? Because I heard that, and you're hearing stuff like that. And you have to bite your tongue a little bit to not say something to them. And you have to tell them, and you try to tell them in a polite way that is discrimination, that's a stereotype. And number 2, it's like, where'd you grow up at? In a cornfield? I shouldn't have to tell you any of this.
I was in the library one day studying, and a young girl, she came in there because at the time there was no room for, or no place for the girl to do her prayer. And I overheard some girls in the library. I just heard them saying, you know, what is she doing? Like, this is a library. This is not a place for prayer. She should find somewhere else to go. And I thought it was extremely disrespectful. It's very inconsiderate for them to even speak out of turn because she was not doing anything that would affect them. Her prayer was silent. She has moved to the side. There was no need for them to say anything.
I came to Ohlone thinking that, you know, I was going to do interpreting, and I was so excited. I was like, there's not a lot of women in interpreting, especially like women of color. So I was like, oh, this is going to be great, you know. And I get there, and the students, there's some hostility there. I had a student come up to me, deaf, and ask me, was it okay to say the N-word, but signs it with a hard R in front of his friends, and then people just look at me and start laughing. You know, how do you react to that, right? So this semester, there's a social psychology class, and the teacher showed this video, and he made a statement to the class about how saying Black Lives Matter is like any other anti-Black organization. He was trying to tie the similarities between white supremacists and Black Lives Matter.
I don't think they should be sent to a training because you can train all day long and a person will pass the training and then go back to being racist again. If you have so many complaints of racism against you, 1 or 2 is enough. You need to be terminated. You need to be written up, given an opportunity to change, and if you don't change, you need to be said goodbye to. And not quietly, publicly. Because people need to understand that this kind of behavior is not tolerated at an institution where the majority of the students are students of color and Black.
As union president, I was asking the negotiators what they were negotiating, because from what I was hearing, they weren't really coming forth and really telling us things. And when I told them I was coming to the meeting, met me at the door and told me I could not come in. I thought that was ridiculous, and I went in anyway. And then they proceeded to tell the administration, which is something you never do. They told the administration that they did not want me there. So can you imagine what our union looked like that day? And I think that they thought they were hurting me, which, yeah, they were, but they weren't really hurting me. They were really hurting the union. It was just stupid. It's something I think they expected, because I'm the Black woman, and they feel that I'm the angry Black woman, which is funny because I'm actually not the angry Black woman. But they felt that I was, because I guess I just say things on my, I'll just say things. And I think they thought that I was going to act ugly, at this meeting. But I wasn't. I just wanted to know what they were doing. From then on out, for that term, the administration wasn't going to take me seriously because, these people have already said that they don't want me and they don't like me, and, who has to deal with me now?
Does this look any different to you in 2021?
No. In fact, those same people are now running the union now, and they're still doing the same thing.
Not everyone is open. Those are the challenges when you present new ideas, right? In terms of, did diverse voices go into this discipline, right? So not everyone is happy with that or cool with that. Racial markers, right? What you can see is big, right? Race and appearance is a big thing, So to have an outright mark of, of being Black, I think is a big signifier to other people, because, Blackness is something that is seen as a threat or not as a positive in a variety of cultures, in a variety of communities of color, right? So, I think colorism is out there in the Latino community, Asian community, etc., right? So it's not just, Black versus white thing.
Talking about social forces on this campus, currently, all 3 of the faculty leaders are white men. It cannot be a coincidence that on a college where faculty make up more than 50% women, at a college where more than 80% of the students are students of color, that all 3 of the faculty leaders should be white men is an example of racist forces.
They hired an amazing person. She was here for 1 semester. She not only taught what the book says, but she also taught supplemental stuff like this is what the book's leading out. And she included the people of color. She included Black sign language.
And she was Black also.
And she was, also identify as Black. She was a Black Jewish woman. And all of a sudden, the head teacher of that department comes in the classroom taking notes. The next week, the dean comes in there taking notes. At the end of this semester, she's gone.
But you asked the question about where I've seen it most. I think I've seen it in the faculty ranks. I've seen it in less with classified staff, and maybe a little bit in management. Well, let me start with the consequences. There aren't any, I would imagine, as you would imagine. They have privilege. They have a strong voice. They have academic freedom. And at times, I think, they hide behind that.
African American history is not African American history. That is U.S. history, and it should be so named. But the reason we have to do African American history is because we have not been given the credit for building this country on my foreparents. This country was built for free on their backs. The typical history book does not tell you that. This country started as a racist society, and history repeats itself. We're still seeing that same racism, different game, same game, different players, excuse me. I'm an aggressive Black woman with a chip on my shoulder who's mad at the world. The angry Black woman syndrome. I'm not the angry Black woman. I'm tired of being sick and tired. I'm tired of letting people run over me and other women who look like me. And if I don't stand up as the elder, who's going to stand up for the generations that follow? It has to stop somewhere.
I'll share with you that I feel like we've had a year focused around these types of conversations, right? Trying to have them. And what we've seen, what I've felt, and what I've heard is it's too much. So when is it too much? And who determines when it's too much?
Particularly when you deal with equity or diversity or racism, I'm very conscious about not painting with a broad brush or broad strokes, right? You address what needs to be addressed. So if there's an issue with the faculty member with regard to racism or equity or inequity, we really want to address what that is. And then from there, we want to address what's the root and how did we get there. If you don't put it in the policy, if you don't put it in the contract, then it's really difficult to actually then hold that accountability. But consequences are going to be a variety of things, but it depends on the offense and depends on what the needs are. I think the first thing, in all honesty, we have to do is ensure that the status and the mental health of the student and make sure that they're okay and make sure that we take care of them and deal with the other part second. Because it's real easy to focus on the act and forget about the person who's actually impacted by it.
And luckily, that's one thing that Ohlone College did do, is that they gave them a safe place for them to do their prayers now. There's actually a room for them to go to do their prayers now, which is a good thing. And that just shows a lot more of diversity that's being brought to Ohlone and making it a safe place for all races. So I think that Ohlone College is trying to do better. They have a lot to work on, but I think that they are trying to do better to make it more of a safe place for everyone and not just one particular race in general.
I don't know about the timeline, but I have gotten so much energy and I feel so enthusiastic about what the campus is doing, coming from the administrators to the staff, to the students, to the faculty. I see from these workshops that there's a long way to go. But I feel like if people are willing to at least start talking, then compassion can be part of it.
I would have to say, after the murder of George Floyd, that really opened a space for us to start having these conversations about race and racism. African Americans, when things happened to them that they knew was wrong, that was an injustice or an inequity, even we were afraid to say anything because the first accusation is, oh, she's pulling the race card. I see people wanting to learn and wanting to know more. I see people admitting what they don't know. That's huge.
Would I like to see the college become a model? No. We are going to become the model. If that doesn't mean we have to do what the other 115 do. We can stand alone. We can be innovative. We can change the system. Too often in our system, we look at what everyone else is doing and accept that that's okay. And sometimes it might be, but sometimes we have to do what's right for our students and our community. Because part of the courage is to recognize no one else is doing it, but it's the right thing to do.
If I don't stay for my children, and I don't mean my biological children, but my children, the younger children of color, and they don't have a resource like they have in me, what's gonna happen to them? How many will stop going to college because a teacher talked to them crazy in a class, made a racist comment, graded them badly because their grammar may not have been correct? If they didn't have my office to go to and talk to, if that transgender person didn't have somewhere to come to feel supported because the family has now put them out, teachers are talking about them, that gay guy who's come to my office and said, help me tell my family I'm gay, that student that didn't have money to finish his education, Dr. Jones, what can I do? I stayed because of all of those reasons. That's why I'm still at Ohlone. So if I die, or if I need some blood today, I can take your blood even though you don't look like me. We're still gonna live. We're still human. And all we're trying to do, as Rodney King so wellly said, can we all just get along? That's all we're trying to do. Just get along. Let me be me, you be you. I'll leave you alone, you leave me alone. When we need to come together, let's do it. And let's put all that other stuff that takes so much energy and stress, let's leave it over here because it's actually killing you, it's not helping you. And let's just come and work together and just be happy. Can we all just get along?
People, I just want to say, you know, can we all get along? Can we get along? Can we stop making it horrible for the older people and the kids?
My purpose for wanting to see this documentary produced was to show how Ohlone responded to the chancellor's call to action, to have the discussions about race and racism that's happening on our campus. We didn't shy away from the conversations. We leaned into them, and we're in it for the long haul. Ohlane's mission to build an anti-racist campus is something that is important to us.
When the past is first, one day I'ma come back up to earth. Sick of going back and forth, driving under the stars where the patterns blur. And we gon' have a word. We come so far on half of the world. We gon' grow apart without any word. Missing you cause I'm hardly at work. And when this shit is looking up, I need you right back in the world. I've been feeling rushed, forming all these habits, coming in and out of touch. And I want you to find me. We got all this bullshit, I put it